What's up, guys? This is Chaney from Self-Aware Gaming, and this is part 2 of our Nintendo 64 take apart, cleaning it up and putting it back together. Last video we left off with the motherboard and we were cleaning it, and just a quick reminder, we cleaned all the dust and everything off with air duster, Q-tips, and quick tip for the ports. If you want to clean up your ports, I take a magic eraser. I mean, you can buy this at Walmart, pretty cheap. And do not wet it. Please do not wet it, because these motherboards cannot be moist whatsoever. But you just take this magic eraser. You can scrub the gunk off the ports and just air dust it, and it'll look pretty much new. Nothing major there. But like I said, we left off with this, and with this video, we're going to pick up kind of where we left off, and we're going to be cleaning our metals, and we're going to be cleaning our plastics, the bottom part of the shell, and we're going to start with the top of the shell. The top of the shell, there's only 3 parts to it as far as like cleaning it, taking it apart, which would be taking the reset button, the power button, and the actual cartridge holder. And it's pretty simple, but we'll take those apart as we're cleaning them and then show you how to put them back together. Alright guys, so we just cleaned up our metals, as you can see here. Heat sink, shield, the bottom of the shell. We pretty much just cleaned up our metals and our plastics. Now we're pretty much down to the case, and once we take this apart and clean it, we can get on to putting this all back together. First thing you want to do is the easy part, the 2 buttons, the reset and the power button. What you want to do for the reset button, there's 2 little tabs, and you'll see it. It's kind of like a cross right here. But you want to take them 2 tabs, squeeze them together, and they'll pop. And this button ain't gonna just like fall out. Sometimes you gotta take like a little bitty screwdriver and put it in between that cross just to kind of push it on out, and it will rock it out. And there's your button. We're gonna be cleaning that. Pretty much the same thing with the power button. It's got 2 little tabs on each side of this rectangle here. You just push them and push the little clips in, punch it out. There you go. There's your 2 buttons. Those are out, and I mean it gets dirty in there. I mean, just the whole decaying of flesh and whatnot. Now next part, we got 2 screws on each side of the cartridge holder, as I like to call it. And you can take this screwdriver, or you can take your medium screwdriver. It really don't matter. I'm going to use the medium one for this. All you do is take these screws out, and since we're going to be putting this back together first, this is going to be our last set of screws out on the table. Like I said, if you put everything out, you can pretty much put this thing back together in reverse. It's not that hard. It's pretty easy actually. And then after you take them 2 screws out, this piece literally comes up just like that. We're going to wash it, and then you will see that there are 2 slats, and it's the 2 slats you see on top of the case. We're going to take them 2 slats. They do have springs, and I'm going to show you something. If you can look right here, well, that one just came on out. There's 2 grooves, and it just sets in like that, and there is a spring that sits on top of this little piece of plastic, and it will sit up against this wall of plastic, the 2 springs. As you can see, that's your spring that's going to sit up on top of that plastic as you put these 2 ends in the groove. Like I said, it's not hard, and the springs won't come out, so you ain't got no worries about that. So we're going to clean the top of the shell. Kind of like with the motherboard, the magic eraser is really going to be your best friend. They can get the scuffs off, they can get the dirt out of the grooves, which it'll get most of it out, but you really want to use a toothbrush for these grooves, like right here at Nintendo. It's pretty hard to get that dirt out. and even right here at the buttons, there's a lot of dirt that's kind of hard to get out. Toothbrush is the best, especially for like those grooves right there. Magic eraser, get the your scuffs, your pen marks, your permanent marker marks off of it. It'll knock out a lot of the dust. Um, and like I said, magic eraser, toothbrush, and this thing will look 10 times better than what it does now. So we're gonna go ahead and clean this thing back to looking good, and then we'll start from there putting it back together. Alright guys, here we are about to put this thing back together. We're going to start with the bottom of the pit, as I like to call it. And you're going to take these little weird brackets, and you're just going to kind of throw them in their little slots right there. And then here's the bottom of your heat shield. Remember, this lines up with the cartridge hole that's in the case. And you'll see everything will just kind of line up and it'll just fall into place. Now before we put the motherboard back in, take that plastic piece that you need for your cable and just go ahead and slide that on in so that way you don't forget it. And then these ports, they have slots and that you can put the motherboard in, and it kind of just like that, it just makes everything easier as far as putting the motherboard back in, all nice and neat. You take the top part of your heat shield here, and which, if you can see, that's your power button, that's your reset button holes. Line that back up with the switches, and just gently falls on there. Now, like I said, as far as our screws, we're pretty much starting from backwards, working our way to the top. So you take the 5 screws that you took out, the sides of this heatsink, make sure it's on there good. And I know I hadn't really used the needle nose pliers that much this video, but this is kind of where you would need them. You want to take that screw and grab it by the head and then just kind of feed it on in the holes. It makes it a lot easier. I mean, because doing it by hand it can be a little bit aggravating, but at least with the needle nose pliers it makes this so much easier, and it kind of saves you some time. At least it does for me. And anytime I'm going to be doing more than 3 screws, screwing them in, we're going to kind of fast forward to that part so that way we're not taking up just so much time. So right here we're going to pause for just a second, and when we come back, these screws will be screwed into the heat shield. Alright, so now we got the screws in for the heat shield. Little quick reminder, I actually forget sometimes myself. The little plastic piece right here on the front of the console, be sure you put that in before you actually screw this thing down, otherwise you will take it all back off and then put it all right back on like I just did. And make sure too that plastic piece, there's a little opening, it looks like kind of like a U. Make sure that's facing up, and so that way everything will just kind of slide on in there real nice and easy. Alright, so now, next thing we're going to do is put on our strange little metal piece that goes for the expansion port and the heatsink. Now, really, you just want to go ahead and put the heatsink on first. Just kind of lay it on up there. And you may have to just line it up just right like that. And you want to take your strange piece. If you set it facing you, like, the console's facing you, this will make this a lot easier. Because these little clips, they will and do fall off. And this one goes in like this. And the other one, it will go like this. It will actually sit on top of these 2 little groove holes right here. And like I said, we're going to put that back just like so. And we are going to slide this piece back on top of our expansion port, which is on top of the heatsink. And this part is a little tricky. Just try not to get too frustrated with it. I mean, this part is just real crazy. So pretty much now we got that part. It'll kind of, some of them will click in, some of them won't. I mean, just like I said, fit it on, make sure your clips are facing the inside of this expansion port. And if you remember our little friend, the lonely screw, take it right there and you put it back on the front, and in case you can't see, it'll be to the right of your light right here at the very bottom, and there's nothing that goes in this other screw hole. It's just kind of there for whatever reason. We're going to go ahead and put our lonely screw back in. Make sure he's in there all nice and tight. Then we'll start with these itty bitty really long screws, and they go on each side of this expansion port. Let's just go and feed those in there. And then the only reason we're just going to keep filming through this part is simply because sometimes the order of these screws can be confusing. But like I said, I mean, we're pretty much just working backwards at this point, and it's not rocket science. I'm sure it was when they first made these. But anywho, next thing you want to make sure your heat sink is lined up just right, and you'll see it with all the holes, everything just be lined up real nice and pretty. Make sure you line it up really good. Once again, take the needle nose pliers, take these two black screws and put them right here. And right to here on top of the expansion port up here. Take your medium screwdriver. I'm just going to go ahead and screw these little bad boys in. Since they're really short, sometimes they'll give you a fit as far as threading them on. Sometimes you may have to back them out until you feel it click, and then screw them back on in. Then we're going to take our screwdriver, or our screws with the really strange washer on them. Those are going to go up next. There's just two of those. They're going to go right here on top of these black screws. And finagle those in. Now the next part is the fun part. Back to the heat sinking, the heat seat. Cannot English today. The heat sink screws, these itty bitty little boogers. And you're gonna fill up these holes that are in the heat sink. And there's two holes right here, don't forget those. But pretty much we're gonna go ahead and fill all these holes up. Like I said, take your needle nose pliers, grip it by the head, feed it in the hole. It will make your life easier, and it will keep you from wasting so much time. We're going to go ahead and pause, fast forward this part, and by the time we get back, the heat sink screws will be firmly placed. Alright guys, so we put the heat sink screws in. A little bit of a warning, my friends. These are aggravating, super duper aggravating. A lot of times they will not want to thread back in, and they are going to twist and turn on you like a rattlesnake in a barrel. So just be prepped, my friends, because they are aggravating. You're going to have to do a lot of, back screwing. You're going to have to back them out a lot and then try to just find that sweet spot and then try to, screw them in, and they're going to twist on you every bit of the way. And honestly, it's okay if they don't go in perfectly. If you're OCD, be patient with it. Eventually you'll get them. If you're not that OCD, it's fine. I mean, it'll still work just as long as they're in and they're tight. They'll find their grooves, and everything will be okay. Now we're going to move on to the cartridge screws, which are on each side of this little cartridge slide. That's these two long copper screws. Once again, use your medium screwdriver. Just slide them in. Just put them on in. And really, the heatsink screws are about the worst. It's really besides just remembering to how to put this thing back together, as far as which steps to take, and which screws go where, and blah blah blah. After once you get it, and it's not that bad. The heatsink screws are really like the hardest part of this whole thing. Now we're going to go to both of our ports, which, if you remember, put that in before you actually put all this together. Otherwise, if you're OCD, this is going to murder you. Take a needle nose. And these are the silver screws, by the way. And there's 2 little holes on each side of the ports. You just kind of want to feed them in. Nice and easy. But yeah, the heat sinks, they're pretty terrible. That's probably the worst part. I absolutely hate it. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Now we're gonna go ahead, medium screwdriver. And you just wanna tighten these down. And one other just little note, do not be afraid to apply pressure to this stuff. I mean, obviously don't stand on top of your screwdriver and try to, screw these in. If you do that, you're a caveman and you probably don't deserve to own a N64, but that's just personal opinion. But don't be afraid to put a little pressure on these dudes. I mean, if you want to get them nice, good and tight, they are going to require a tad bit of pressure, and the only advice I have is just try to be careful about stripping them out. If you strip them out, you are in a world of pain. So just try to be careful. I mean, give it pressure, but just make sure you're not stripping them. And if you feel like you're stripping them and you got them, 90% of the way screwed in, I mean, don't even chance it. So it looks 10 times better, and it looks super awesome. So we're gonna set this aside for now, and we're gonna go back to our case, the top part of the shell. Like I showed you guys, as far as these flaps, and they don't go in any particular order, so don't flip out about that. But these slats, they got grooves, and you just want to set them grooves, or these little posts right here, set them in the groove. Like I said, your spring, the little hang spring, it's going to go up against this plastic wall. Your other little hang spring is going to go leaning up against this little plastic post. And these can be somewhat annoying. It's just kind of awkward trying to put them in. Like I said, I mean, they can be kind of easy to just pop themselves back out just because of the springs. Now this part right here of the cartridge slot, I don't know why I'm saying this fits on there. What am I doing? Figure it out. Like so. So, 2 weird circles up here. See how it's all, there's the groove for that spring wall. Just set it down in there. Then you want to take them 2 screws that you took out of it earlier. Needle nose. Here to save the day. Feed those in there. See what I mean? Imagine doing that by hand. It'd be super aggravating. So much easier like that. Take your medium screwdriver. Just back thread them. Get on there nice and tight. Oh. Try to be careful. These might try to rethread themselves. I mean, we are dealing with plastic at this point on this part. And you don't want to bear down too hard on these at all. I mean, these screws are fairly, just like ridiculously easy to put back in. So now that part's boop, boop, it's good to go. Your buttons. Now your buttons, it's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. Obviously you want power facing you, and it goes on the left side of the console. You just slide it on, boop, 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 boop. And then your reset button slides in there as well. Sometimes they will give you a little bit of a headache, but just kind of angle it in somewhat and then push it in there and it'll click. Alright, so now, moving all this stuff aside, we shall bring back the console, and then you put your top shell back on, and everything's got grooves on this dude, so that part is pretty easy, which I am making this look ridiculously hard. See? And back to our needle nose pliers. The 4.5 milliliter millimeter security bits. You just kind of want to feed those back. Remember, there's 6 of them. You can just kind of drop them in there because these little screw holes are pretty deep. You can drop them in there. They're not going to flip on you or anything on their way down. We're going to put one in the front right there. We're going to go ahead and just lock these down. So we're going to fast forward to this part. Basically, your tip for this is once you find the hole, just back it out a little bit until you feel that sweet spot. And it might take you just a second. I don't know, I'm just completely blocking the view. But just, back it out a little bit till you feel that nice click, and then you can just go ahead and screw it on down. That's going to be, the general idea for all these screws right here. Just tighten it down. You ain't got to bear down or nothing like that. Or otherwise you're just going to like rethread all of your screws. But yeah, just back it, feel that nice sweet click, and then just screw on down. When we click back on the film, this will all be done. Real quick, as far as the feet goes, there's 4 little posts and there's 4 little holes. Just line that up. You may have to just swivel it. And there's indicators on top too, where to put them. And once more, just drop your screw in there. And that's all there is to that. No biggie. But like I said, once we flip the video back on, this part will be done. Alright, so we have put the 4.5 millimeter security bits back into the control deck. And the only way I remember that it's called a control deck is because it's there. We're going to finish up, put a little plastic piece back here. Well, don't I just look retarded? Yeah, I sure know what I'm doing. Click. And your expansion pack, pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you just kind of snugly fit it back in. Put your little secured door back on there. Now, we unfortunately do not have the AV cables to show the picture if this thing is working. We'll do that later. We'll do that later on another video. But what we are gonna do is we are gonna at least plug up the main power cord, because that's all we have available to us right now, and show that it does work. It does cut on. Boop. It's on. It does work. So I mean, I've never had any problems with the video not showing up or anything like that. But it does look 10 times better now. It looks super clean. Looks super nice. And it is on. Fortunately, like I said, we can't show the picture, but that's fine. I mean, we do know it works, and that is awesome. I mean, just the fact that you can pull this thing apart, clean it, and slap it back together, and it cut on is pretty awesome in my opinion. Anyway, like I said, my name is Chaney, and I'm from Self-Aware Gaming, and this is how to clean and fix your N64. We are going to be doing more videos like this, and I'm not going to lie, I was kind of nervous. This is my first video, and I'm on YouTube now. But we are going to do more videos of different like Nintendo consoles and stuff like that, controllers, memory cards, whatnot. And I will say this, as far as the N64, just because, you know, this is an N64 video and this is kind of like a note. It is actually completely possible if you have an N64 that does not work and you have another N64 that does work, you could actually swap the shells. Like if one shell, you know, say this one didn't work and we had one that did work, but the shell on this one just looked really crappy, you can actually switch them and it'll still work. I've done this myself, and just a little tip, it can be done. It's kind of the, like I said, I guess one way of doing it. If you want like a nice looking control deck, like if it's got spots and you can't get them out with a magic eraser or whatever, by all means I recommend just like switching the cases, and that part's, it's not too hard. But like I said, we're going to be doing more videos like this, different Nintendo consoles and stuff like that, so you guys stay tuned. I appreciate everybody who's watched this. Like our videos and check us out on Facebook. You know, we are kind of getting started, but we're definitely working our way to, you know, being, how would you say it, Corey? I guess
have a presence.
Our presence is out there. We're definitely working on our Facebook and stuff like that, and in the future, hopefully we'll have a setup to where if the viewers, you know, want me to clean their stuff, you know, we'll do videos of us cleaning their stuff, or if you don't want us to do a video of us cleaning your stuff, that's fine too. But by all means, you know, we're going to try to set it up to where we can, you can send us your stuff, and, you know, obviously you can pay us to fix it, clean it, whatever. And we're also going to try to set some stuff up to where we can sell consoles too. So that's kind of something to look forward to in the future. And another thing too is if you have a console that you would like to donate to us and like for us to do a video on, you know, how to fix it and how to clean it, we can do that. And if you want it back, we'd be more than glad to, you know, send it back to you. But you know, we accept donations and all that. And like I said, we're getting everything set up to do all that. But we really appreciate everybody who's watching this. Like I said, like our video, check us out on Facebook, Instagram. I think we got Instagram going now. And appreciate all the views. I'm Chaney. This is Self-Aware Gaming. Thanks, guys.